Welcome into the Five Guys on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and Five Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can find him at Alex Donno. I'm going to talk a little bit of Dolphins today. If you're interested in some Heat conversation, it was me talking to myself this morning on starting five. Appreciate Manny Chang producing for that as we get ready for tonight's scrimmage. We'll touch on that in the Panthers situation, but primarily going to talk Dolphins here today. Sponsored by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE. Here's the deal. You put down $5. You play it, they give you 50. That's right. Put down 5, they give you 50. 10-1, legal in the state of Florida. 2 to 4 players you play together. Of course, tonight we've got Kansas City. I'm so sick of watching them. Kansas City, New Orleans tonight. So if you want to get in, I think the car prop is what, 203 and 203 and a half yards, something along those lines. You can see there Travis Kelce at 59 and a half. Mahomes has been under his props for the most part this season. And of course, they're pretty much out of receivers. They're 249 and a half passing yards, and that's the higher number that they're giving you tonight. Otherwise, it's 236 and a half. So check it out. Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE. Play $5. They give you 50 to play. All right, the Dolphins. First thing, I just want to say this. I need Mark Sanchez out of my life, Alex. This is the problem. When you're a bad team, and the Dolphins so far this season have been a bad team, they give you the worst. You don't get Kevin Harlan anymore, and I know it's your network, but you don't get Kevin Harlan anymore, or you get Mark Sanchez, and that was unbearable. As was watching most of that game. And it really was just survive in advance, essentially. Like, don't kill your entire season. Like this whole, if that play is not called back, and they made the right play, they made the right call based on the rule. The rule is stupid. They made the right call based on the rule. But if that does not get called back, I mean, we literally are talking about the rest of the season not even mattering, Tua not coming back, because what is the point? Now people are going to start to say, oh, they're 2-3. I already see it. They're a game behind the Bills. They're tied for second place. I told you all the division wasn't that good. And you're seeing this. And honestly, 9 wins, 10 wins at the most probably wins this thing. And so people are starting to get their hopes up again. Is there anything about yesterday that would get your hopes up?
I appreciate the fact that Mike McDaniel showed enough adaptation to really lean on the running game when you had to, because it's obvious to all of us that you had to lean on the running game. But sometimes that's not obvious to Mike McDaniel, because what his, despite the fact that he's a former run game coordinator, he likes to lean on his weapons in the passing game, even when Tua is not healthy. So I appreciate the way the Dolphins stepped it up on the ground. I appreciate the way the defensive secondary played. Miami in this game, Ethan, 193 team rushing yards, and doing it even though Devon Achane gets concussed early on. They rushed for more yards in that game than they did the previous 2 games combined. And I know it's against New England, but adapting your offense to make the adjustments necessary to go and win the game. That's number one for me, that I did appreciate coming out of that game. The other thing for me was, for as ugly as that game was, I don't know what the over under was, but I'm sure it was above 25. Like I'm sure, 25 or 24 and a half was not, where they set the over under. Like that game set football back like 60, 70 years. At the same time, I can appreciate coming back and scoring, 12 unanswered points to win the game. I know Calais Campbell referred to it as a character building win. Like it wasn't quite as dramatic as the night before, when the Hurricanes somehow came back from down 25. But for a Dolphins offense that's not exactly setting the world on fire without Tua, I will take it. You beat a team that you were supposed to beat. I'll take that. Knowing you're probably a couple of weeks away from getting your starting quarterback back, so to speak. And, like I put it in you talked about the narrative, Ethan, and I put it in the title of the episode. Are the Miami Dolphins back in the hunt? And our guy, It's Logic, says, well, they were never out. They were just 4 games in. I would argue that. I would say if the Dolphins had lost that game and fell to 1-4 on the season, you're pretty much out of the hunt. Like, I think if anything, I know you were only 4 games of the season before that, but if you don't win that game yesterday, you're 1-4. I don't think you're digging out of that hole.
Well, and it's not just the standings. The narrative would have fed another narrative. So essentially, if you lose that game, I understand if he's cleared that, in most cases you would put the player back on the field. but we know that there's more to this with the Tua thing, and we know that they're being watched differently, and we know the financial ramifications of all this. And I just think you had a hard time making a case to put him back on the field at say at 1-5. Okay, if they lose this one and then the next one, the Colts, especially when you've gone through this softer part of the schedule. I mean, I'm looking at the rest of the AFC. Okay, the Chiefs are like a week 4-0. I mean, they literally have a net.
Yeah.
They're a net plus 20 coming into tonight. Like that. This is
Yeah,
not.
but early in the season, they always play with their food. Like because it was the same thing. Like last year, they started really slow. They had some losses. I think the Chiefs will be fine.
But look at this. Even through 5 games, I mean, the best net points in the entire AFC is the Bills at plus 36. This was supposed to be the stronger conference, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then look at the NFC. You've got New Orleans is plus 57, even though they're 2-2. The Niners struggling at 2-3, but they're plus 20. The entire NFC North is a plus. The Vikings are plus 63. The Lions plus 22. The Packers plus 20. The Bears are plus 28. The Commanders are plus 40, which nobody saw coming. Okay.
No.
So how many? I mean, there's like 3 teams in there with the better net points than the Bills, who lead the. So I can see why the case could be made. Like nobody's playing that well in the AFC, and then you also look at record. Okay, I mean you're ahead of the Browns and the Bengals right now as the Dolphins, right? Both teams that were expected to compete maybe for a wild card spot, assuming that Baltimore was likely the best team in that division. You're looking at, I mean, the Jags we know are awful. They're minus 46. You're ahead of the Jags. I mean, you lost to the Titans, which is a disappointing loss, but you're ahead of the Titans in the standings, and you're right there. I mean, you're a game behind Denver. I mean, the Chargers are 2-2. The Raiders are 2-3. I mean, this is it's kind of a cesspool, honestly. Like it's not great, and so you can work your way up in this thing. But I do think at 1-4, then we would have started to have that conversation. Now, at least you don't have to have the conversation. Now the conversation twists, Alex. So I'll ask this, and we'll handle more of this on the other side of the break. Do you play Tua as soon as everybody has cleared him? You put him right back on the field.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if he gets cleared by everybody, that's his decision, and I know everybody. Well, not everybody, but I know a lot of people just want to force him into retirement, and that's his call to make. Even if he is at risk of future long-term damage, that's not my decision to make for him. I mean, if he feels like the juice is worth the squeeze, and if he, I'm sure his doctors know a lot more than I do, and know a lot more than most of the talking heads on ESPN. That's ultimately his decision to make, and if he gets cleared by everybody, I don't see why you wouldn't let him play. I mean, not only are the Dolphins going to need him, it's like, right. He's making a lot of money not to play at that point if he gets cleared.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on it. I do think that there's still going to be some chirping out there. You're going to always hear that. But it is his decision. And the only way the decision could have been taken out of his hands was the doctor said, you can't play anymore. Right. In which case, go collect your money because he would have gotten all of it. End of story. Move on. Didn't happen. And so as a result of that, now it's okay, put him back on the field and hope for the best. I still don't trust the offensive line, but I will say this, okay? If McDaniel learned anything from yesterday, which was the inside running game is working, just stick with it until they stop it, that will help Tua.
Yeah.
That will help Tua. It'll help with play action. It'll help with him throwing the ball less often, which, again, the less frequency, the less chance of something bad really happening. And also it may stop him from subconsciously thinking he needs to make a play. Because if you look at what happened in the game where he got hurt, a lot of it was against Buffalo. He was not playing well. I still think 2 of the 3 interceptions were not totally his fault, but he was not playing well. They were not playing well. They were in a spot against a team that we said was a measuring stick for them. Everybody said that. And the measuring stick was they measured up way short. And then he tried to do something extra. And I will just ask those who have always said, and I know our guy Lewis says this all the time, they need Tua to get out of the pocket more. They need him to make more plays. They need him to improvise. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just let's appreciate him for what he does, okay, yeah, and try to build around him. And maybe it's just, okay, the extra weapon for the Dolphin offense is do the simplest thing possible. Run the ball between the tackles. That's it. Like, run the ball between the tackles, because clearly they got a couple guys who are capable of doing it. And even if A-Chain's out for a little bit of time, they need a third wide receiver. Split him out wide and play Wright more often, because I think that's one of the things that came out of yesterday. All right, we'll talk more about this. Maybe someday Jaylen Wright will have his own replica, not replica, but what's the word for it? You know what I mean? Like a vintage jersey. Vintage jersey.
I was going to say throwback, but vintage works. Yeah.
Either one. You can get all of your throwbacks: Dolphins, Heat, Marlins. He doesn't have the Canes ones right now, but that's okay. I know that's look. I know you'd rather talk about that anyway. I totally. He had to throw that in there. That they. By the way, I turned it off at 38-17. Was it 38-17? Yes.
38-18.
38-18. I will say the place where we're at turned it off, or we moved on for somewhere else, and then I was surprised and thought I was
missed all the magic.
No, the magic was in my cup, but by the time I think what was in my, I didn't really believe it when I was actually told. So there you go. Yeah. All right, Jersey's 305.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
All right, so they get a break now for a week, right? And then they come back, they get the Colts. Colts are not great. I'm looking at their numbers this year. They gave up 122 points in 5 games, so not one of the better defensive teams in the league. Of course, they've had their own issue trying to sort of break in a young quarterback, and then injuries related to that. I mean, what do you think the Dolphins need to accomplish between now and then?
Well, I mean, probably not going to be Tua necessarily, but try to get healthy during the bye week, and it's kind of annoying to me that the Hurricanes and the Dolphins have the same bye week. It's gonna be kind of I'm actually going to Oklahoma this weekend to visit my sister, so try to find something to do out there, which means nothing. Go to Walmart or something. But yeah, no, I mean, try to get some bodies healthy, and I think focus more. Assuming you're going to have a backup quarterback still in a couple weeks on that inside running game, because again, I think you're going to have to keep leaning on this, and there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously Jaylen Wright just showed you this past weekend that he's ready to contribute as a rookie. Mostert being back mostly to full strength is nice. We'll see what happens with Achane with the concussion protocol, but I think you have some players that you can lean on in the running game. So I want to see more of that. Until Tua is back and like ready to fully operate again. I want to see a little bit more of that smash mouth identity, because I think that's your best path to victories right now.
Well, it is, because I'm starting to trust this defensive coordinator, and it's early, but he has a good feel for when to be aggressive and when not. And that blitz call at the end is not something Vic Fangio would have done. And you start to see, guys in these moments, and whether or not they have a grasp of their own personnel. He's lost Phillips, obviously. Now they're going to be without Holland, it appears, for a period of time. They still don't have Chubb back, so they don't have all of their personnel. They made a mistake not re-signing Van Ginkel. We talked about that at the time. They've gotten pretty deep. Steelers been great. They've gotten pretty decent play from Agba too, which has been a nice surprise after he's kind of struggled the past couple seasons. But I do trust the defensive coordinator, and I think that if they can lean into the running game, and when Tua comes back, it's the short, quick throws. You go deep off of play action. This one comes in from Alfredo. I saw him tweet this and follow 3 yards per carry. All their scripts were some things McDaniel can't control. There were a couple of scripts away from winning comfortably. Step in the right direction for McDaniel. Yeah, I mean, look, he needs to be
I thought that was McDaniel's best coaching job of the season.
Yeah.
Like I really did. Like I was thoroughly impressed, and he needed it, because he had been criticized, a lot of it fairly, for the previous 3 games.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll have more coverage throughout the week. Everybody stay safe. We just wanted to get in a quick one today. Again, we've got a Heat episode up Five on the Floor, if you've been following our interviews on Five on the Floor, we did interviews with 13 different Heat players. We're starting to put the video from half of them up. Half of them I did in the Bahamas. But the ones we did in Media Day, so we have one with Haywood Highsmith that's up. Ken will have Panthers coverage this week. Alex Baumgartner with a new show every Wednesday. Plenty of coverage here. And, of course, I can't say it, but follow Alex's work on the Canes. Anyway, they've been great. Oh, but follow our guys, too, Six Ring Canes. Everybody can get in because they are the most interesting story in town right now. The Panthers hope to follow that. We'll see about the Heat. And the Dolphins beat New England by less than a touchdown, but we'll take it. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Check it out. Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE. And, of course, we always mention water cleanup of Florida.